In today's episode of the Lone Wolf Chat, today I'll be talking about romance in the media. So, romance is starting to be is a theme that usually follows spring and summer, with fall falling into intimacy and marriage, and winter being either the death of a marriage or a relationship, or the death or some type of tragedy that starts the new wave for spring. Well, that's what it seems like in my opinion. And the two things I'm going to focus on is the writing used in She-Ra, Dreamworks She-Ra, which is now on Netflix with the new season just out, and the romance in Dreamworks Voltron Legendary Defender. The reason why I'm focusing on these two storylines is because it involves a lot of things that just happened within a span of a year between two shows. One of which is the writers using LGBTQ characters and using romance as a way to further the plot. Now, both shows have the same company, but I do not believe, no, they don't have the same writer. And if you haven't watched Voltron Legendary Defender or She-Ra, and this is all going to pertain to writing, by the way, if you have not watched either of these two shows, stop listening now and go watch them. I would highly recommend before talking in this episode because I don't want to spoil these two series for anybody. And the first thing I'm going to bring up is the romance used as a plot device in Voltron. If you watch Voltron Legendary Defender, you notice that some of the characters have love interest, but they're not always applied correctly or used in the right setting. The biggest one being Shiro and Adam, with Adam, Shiro being revealed as gay, and Adam subsequently killed in the same episode where he was revealed to be gay. Now, I understand why they did it, but at the same time, it left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths because it's almost like get rid of the gays or hide the gay away type of stereotype. And that's not the only use of bad romances or bad ways to write a romance. If you go further, we can even go further with the romance between one of the characters, one of the paladins, Hunk, and this girl named it's escaping me right now, but she's an alien girl who was a slave on a planet, and they freed her, and Hunk fell in love with her. Shay, that's her name. Her name is Shay. And we hear about her. She's only had 2 episodes, and she shows up in the finale once the series ends. But it's really kind of a disservice because Hunk actually fell in love with this girl. He frees her, and then he goes back to find Shay because the Team Voltron needs help. She gets captured, nearly killed by the guard. He saves her again, and then we don't hear anything really about her until the end of the series, which is really messed up because they made it a plot point for 2 episodes that Hunk really cares for her, and then he doesn't mention her again. But with Voltron, I will say, it seemed like the writers didn't know how to write a proper romance. If Hunk was supposed to have a love interest, and they do this in all types of kids shows. Well, with Voltron, I still debate if it's really a kid show. I think it's more of a teen show than a kid show. But, it's up to the company. But if they're going to go down the romance plot line with so many of their characters, they're better off having them communicate so we remember that this character still exists. And that's what happened to me that's why I couldn't remember her name. Shay was only in a total of like 3 or 4 episodes. In 2 of which she didn't even get a speaking appearance. Now, with some fans, there was a missed opportunity with the whole Lance and Keith thing, also known as Clans on Tumblr. Now, with that particular romance, they came off as this argumentative types. They just argued with each other, and Lance would always try to one up Keith. And that whole time frame, it did come off. I know some of this shipping, I'm well aware, but the plot line we originally found out was that Lance and Keith were going to get together. If you listen, if there's actually some production articles out there for Voltron Legendary Defender where it says that Keith and Lance were actually supposed to get together. That's why their relationship came off the way it was. And I'm probably going to go into a little bit of production before I get to She-Ra and a couple of other things. But I want to focus on this because writing is the biggest issue with the series, and the romance was not that good. Well, I, I'll, I'll just keep talking. Um, so the Clance fans were hoping at it because it was hinted that these two had an attraction to each other, which by the end of the series we found out they're just best friends. But still, let me explain. When Voltron, one of the seasons of Voltron, one of the earlier seasons, I believe it was either season four, I'm gonna say, or season five, Shiro dies in his battle against King Zarkon, and he was supposed to stay dead. But then the producers, are not the producers, whoever's over them said no, we need to bring him back because Shiro was such a popular character. And mind you, by this point, and this is what they do in the writing process, they had written so many seasons worth of content, they basically had to take a copy and paste to everything Keith was supposed to do, and it went on to Shiro. So, at this point, the writers kind of went, "Oh crap, we have a small budget. We have a smaller budget that we just used up to make consequent subsequent episodes. They want us to do something we really can't do. What do we do? Okay, so let's chop up the episodes and make all of Keith's character development and plotline go to Shiro. So it turns out later we find out Shiro's a clone, and Keith is with the Blade of Mamora trying to stop the Gora Empire in their own right. And I don't want to get 100% into it because that's a whole headache waiting for me. But to make a long story short, the whole Clance romance kind of went out the door with that. So that plot line was scrapped. Then came the whole Latora thing, which is Prince Lotor and Allura. Prince Lotor, who was famous in the 1980 series for being a rapist and abuser, is actually an abused boy himself by his own parents and was pretty much broken by the time Allura found him. But he came off as this charismatic character and a love interest for Allura. Now, I've already talked about that in an old YouTube video about how Allura is pretty much a 15, 16-year-old character falling for an older man and being tricked by him. And she was. She was a young character who was being tricked by Lotor. And around this whole time, Lance also admits that he's in love with Laura as well. And he even tells the Space Mice, who have a psychic link with Allura, this. They go to tell Allura. Allura goes, "Oh, like, I mean, she knew he liked her, but it was more like a player type of love. But he legit fell in love with her because, as the writers had intended, it made Lance a better person. Now, this is before this is after they had to scrap the whole Clance storyline and scrap all of Keith's character development at this point. And then we cut to the romance, and we find out. Now, I was still on the fence about the time when Lotor was with Allura because first of all, these are the same characters who wrote Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it was really shocking to find out that they couldn't write a simple romance, whereas in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and to some extent, Legend of Korra, they could write a romance. I mean, the whole Aang Katara thing went for so many years, and when they finally ended the series, they got married. That was the end of the series, and their romance was very, very lovely. But when it came to Voltron, it's like they kind of screwed the pooch. I mean, yeah, with like going back to what I said about okay, going back to Lotor, he could have been Azula, or he could make him Zuko with his big redemption arc, because we get his backstory later on, and you realize that the abusive stuff she said, that you're just like your dad, triggered him because he was doing everything he could to not be his father till his father broke him. So it's kind of messed up. But to make a long story short, we find out that he's actually crazy. He was mass murdering Alora's people. He's part Altaian himself, and he wants to make himself the god of all gods. And at this point, he loses his mind. And not only does Alora have to leave him in the quintessence field, but there we go. Not only does he have to they have to leave Voltron in the contestants field, where he dies, and his mother comes and asks for revenge because she wanted the family that she could never get because of the quintessence poisoning. But you really feel bad for this character. If this development for this character before this romance was revealed, we would sympathize more with this villain. It's hard to write a sympathetic villain after he's dead, because when you go back, and I know I'm kind of going off topic about romance, but I'll get back to my point about romance in a minute. when you write a character to be a villain, they made him pretty much a hardcore monster amongst all the charm, pomp, and circumstance. But then they waited until later to reveal that he was an abused boy, and he wasn't just a monster; he was created into one, which is the telltale signs of a tragic villain. I legit felt sorry for Lotor after the fact because we didn't know that he was a tragic villain. We just knew he was a nut job that was massacring final living, long lasting uh, hitting Altaians. So that romance was, it's more of a naive type of romance, and I will applaud them on that level because Alora's a teenager falling in love with an older man, and he's using her for his own nefarious schemes. And when she finds out, of course, she flips him on his back and he bounces, but that's pretty cool. But she also learns a valuable lesson about trusting others. But then they take the dumb mistake of putting, Lance was already in love with Alora. He his development is to become a more mature person, which by the end of the series, he is very mature, but it's also pretty bittersweet because he loses the woman he loves. But I'll get to that in a bit. Um, we feel sympathy for Laura because she was used, and she felt horrible because she gave the secrets to Voltron to a mass murderer. But then Lance pulls her to the side and says, "Hey, he used all of us. It wasn't just you." And she still feels horrible about it. So by the time we get to the next season of Voltron, she's trying to make up for a mistake by finding the lost Altaians who turn their back on her because they believe Minerva's the goddess that's going to save them, and she killed their beloved Lotor. It's a lot that Alora has to go through. Then they decide to shove a plot line where Alora and Lance get together. Finally, supposedly it's supposed to be finally, but we knew that it's actually supposed to be Alora. I mean, it was supposed to be Lance and Keith were supposed to be together. So, with the editors or whoever did that screw the pooch on that one. But their romance was sad, and it was so short term. He takes her on a date. They kids finally, which I'm sure some people, if you ever watch their reactions, were squealing with happiness. But then we don't get a chance to enjoy the romance. You know, Keith, before the Laura and Lance have, I mean, Lance and Laura have their little date, Keith is the one who tells Lance that she likes you for you. Be yourself or whatever. You don't have to do impress this princess. And they get their first kiss, but it's still kind of messed up when you know that Keith and Lance are supposed to get together. Then they put this romance in there, and then at the end they kill her off. He kisses. They are in this big field where all of time and space is destroyed, and Laura decides to sacrifice herself in order to save the rest of the group, which was. I'm getting to Shira, I promise. That sacrifice was unnecessary. It was it was unnecessary. There was no reason to sacrifice her when the bad guy, Minerva, realized her wrong, was going to sacrifice herself anyway. Minerva already went into the quintessence field and sacrificed herself to be with her husband, and she went to be with her father. She leaves poor Lance behind, who's been loving her apparently since season one, which I seriously doubt, again, because the actual writing, we find out it wasn't supposed to happen, gives him Altaian markings, and just leaves him to deal with it. And that's the saddest part about the romance in Voltron. I promise you, I will also get to Shira, and I will get to the Shiro and Adam thing in a minute. But that's one of the most bittersweet things of Voltron. It seems like they didn't know what to do with a romance when they got it, because they killed her off. She was only dating him really for 2 freaking episodes before she sacrificed herself, which again was very unnecessary. And they killed a person of color, which that's a whole topic for February. I'm going to say for another civil rights podcast. But it was insane, and a lot of fans felt cheated. I felt cheated because we loved Alora. We were starting to get around to liking their romance, and then they kill it off saying, "Oh well, we don't need it." And then there's the infamous Shiro and Adam, which is called, I think, Adashi or whatever. Shiro is revealed to be gay in his flashback episode. He has a boyfriend who he breaks up with because he's trying to be the best pilot there ever is, and he broke all the records, but he chooses to go off, and his boyfriend tells him, "Do not expect me to be here when I get back. When you get back." And it's true. He wasn't there when he got back because he was killed by the Galra. So we meet the first canon gay couple. Canon gay couple. I know there's another gay couple, but this one's the first canon gay couple we see in the series, and they just kill them off, and it was so offhanded that a lot of the LGBTQ plus community felt cheated. I mean, think about it. If you're a young child identifying yourself as gay and you see a great building romance and then it's killed, it's like, what do I have to hope for? And I feel like when it came to Voltron, it's like they didn't hire or choose to hire any sensitivity writers to deal with this situation. They even had Adam, apparently, not Adam, what's his name? Shiro, get married at the very, very last panel on the end of the series just to make up for their blunder of killing off a gay character. But it doesn't work, especially you're supposed to know this guy's his boyfriend. But then we don't really know anything about him, and he gets married, and it's like, well, okay, fine, whatever, cool, cool. It was forced, and that's the problem with the writing of romance in Voltron Legendary Defender. Shay and Hunk were underdeveloped. Clance was scrapped because of the producers. Shiro and the Adam and Shiro thing should have never really been a thing. That's what they were trying to say. And they didn't even write a gay character correctly. I'm not saying, I mean, Shiro, I didn't care that Shiro was gay. No one cared that Shiro was gay, but the romance was terrible because we didn't get that much development to know how they fell in love, how they met, how they did all this other stuff. We just kind of glossed them over and killed them for shock value. Then there was the infamous Allura and the Latora thing, which had fans divided down the middle and still on Tumblr, which was okay, and that was the only real romance I really seen, only because teenage love is not supposed to last forever. And then we have the Lance and Allura thing that did only last like 2 freaking episodes, where she gave unnecessary sacrifice. The romance in that show was terrible. It didn't portray quality. It didn't portray identity. It didn't portray character development. The only real development was really not even Shiro, because Shiro was given all Keith's plot lines, which is why they didn't treat him as family, and they didn't care that Lance was gone, which is a whole different episode. I'm really going on a tirade here, and I don't want to make this too long. But they kind of screwed the pooch on the writing's perspective of what a romance is supposed to be. And I was really shocked, considering I know it's not Avatar Last Airbender, but the romance in Avatar Last Airbender was actually better than Voltron Legendary Defender. Now let's go with She-Ra Princess of Power, on the other hand. She-Ra's romance is between Catra and Adora. And then there's, I think, a slight one with Glimmer and Powe, but Glimmer and Powe is more of a friendship, could be in a budding relationship thing, but the whole focal point is between Catra and Adora. Catra and Adora grew up together. Catra still, before the whole betrayal in Catra's eyes, she slept at the foot of Adora's bed. She loved Adora more than anything, but she still had a lingering suspicion and hatred for the fact that Adora always got what she wants and Catra was always cast to the side. We don't even know where Catra came from. We just knew that Adora and Catra grew up together under Shadow Weaver, and Adora got all the praise and Catra got all the pain. And it was really messed up. So when Adora goes to find her destiny because she gets weird visions, Catra went to send a whole thing from the Horde, a whole army of the Horde, to bring Adora back, but she doesn't want to go back. And it's that moment that Catra feels betrayed by Allura. The day before, Allura said she was feeling strange, and she didn't like the fact that she was becoming a general. And, Catra felt resentful because she feels she's just as good as Allura, but she kept getting stamped on by Shadow Weaver. And their romance became one of budding love and best friends to I really adore and care for you to hatred over the series. The first step was when Allura chooses to fight with the rebellion rather than come back with Catra. And she takes that as a jealous lover. Like, she resents the fact that even though she loves Adora, she hates the fact that Adora is chosen over her. But she also hates the fact that, well, she's considered a nobody by Shadow Weaver. The same parent that raised her raised Adora. And then she's put in charge of capturing Adora, and she can't even do that. And she tries to trick Adora into coming back home and trying to convince her that this is a real home. The rebellion isn't this, it's not that. And she tries to convince Catra, hey, what we're doing is wrong. You have to join us. We're destroying life. And something snaps in her head as Shadow. Give me 1 second. There goes my computer. She snaps and she realizes that she feels like Adora is betraying her, and it feels very like Adora is being selfish. We get an episode where Adora and Catra are shown as children. Throughout Shadow Weaver's childhood, she is forced to watch as Adora gets praised and she gets, excuse me, she gets abused. I mean, Adora was abused too, but it was more of an emotional abuse where Catra got emotional and physical abuse. And when Catra watched her whole childhood, she watched as Adora tried to take care of her, but at the end of the day, she went to Shadow Weaver's side because that is what she felt. It's almost like, I'm gonna leave you here and I'm gonna do what I need to do, but you stay in this hole that's currently. I'm trying to say the best way to say it, but I'll use this example. Let's say you dig a hole. Tell a person to go into the hole. Mind you, you're at the beach. Water starts filling in the hole. You're calling your friend for help. Your friend is over there flirting with a boy as the water's seemingly going up and could possibly drown you. But your friend's going, oh no, you're fine, waves you off and goes back to doing what she was doing before. That is what Catra felt when it came to Adora. And when the first major betrayal, I mean, first she did turn her back on Adora for the Horde because she didn't understand why Adora was going back on their beliefs and their way of life. But then the second time, she tries to kill Adora because she realized, hey, wait a minute. She feels like if it wasn't for you, I could be at my full potential. It was you that was holding me back. And she tries to kill Adora. And ever since then, her whole life's goal is to take Adora down. First, it was take her down and defeat her and bring her back to the Horde. The second time around was to destroy Adora because she feels that Adora is impeding her life's progress. The third time, this is from season 3, she wants to outright destroy the world so that Adora fails. And she wants Adora to fail. And it's psychotic and it's obsessive. And this all stems to acting like a jealous lover. And even throughout the series, up until this point, she did try to kill Adora, but this was after the second time. The first time she was trying to get back and prove herself to Shadow Weaver and the others that she is competent and she is just as good a leader as Adora was supposed to be. And thanks to that, we get great romance, betrayed, lost, and love at the same time. We get really great romance from this series. If it's not just Catra in Adora, we also get one between a one-sided love with Scorpia and Catra, and then newly entrapped in Hordak, which I still feel uneasy about, but whatever. We see this love come out of these characters. Scorpia truly loves Catra, loves her 100%, but Catra treats her as almost as if she's an idiot. I mean, let's get me wrong, Scorpia is kind of an idiot, but she loves Catra for who she is. And it's almost like Catra doesn't recognize it because of her obsessive love-hate relationship with Adora. And that's where that romance stuff comes in. Scorpia even says in the newest episode of them together while they were in the Beast Island or the Badlands, we could just stay here and just, rule this place and be together. But then Catra's like, no, we're going to go back and stop Adora. Like, her whole being is to prove that she is 100% better than Adora after her lover betrays her. she has to do this. Like, she feels like she has to obsessively destroy this woman in order to show everybody that she is a valid being. So her romance with Adora gets sour. There was an episode where they were at a princess ball, Catra and and Scorpia against the princesses, and there was no fighting to be there. But when they danced together, Allura and Catra, you can see that there was a romance there at one point. But it all goes out the window because she, like I said, Catra feels betrayed. And every episode, and it seems like the writers, and I'm hoping there's another season, but we'll see. The writers are upping. Huh, found a puzzle piece in here. Upping the ante for the show. We're upping the ante so you see the intensity of what betrayed love feels like. Because Catra, for the most part, is a betrayed character. She's been betrayed by Shadow Weaver, who was supposed to be the closest thing she has to a mother. She's been betrayed by Adora, who turns her back on her life beliefs. She's been betrayed by Hordak, who tries to send her to get killed. And then, of all things, she gets replaced by Entrapta, a person who, by the way, I think is supposed to be portrayed as autistic or on the spectrum. He gets betrayed, of all things, a person who does not fight, who is a scientist, but Entrapta said all these things to keep, she did, Entrapta did everything she could to keep Catra alive, and she did manage to keep Catra alive because she can retrieve First One's tech to help Hordak and Entrapta's experiments. She still feels like it's another slap in the face. And then the fact that Shadow Weaver, and this is the moment, and I don't know if you see this in season 3, the moment where Shadow Weaver is with Adora, her face changes into one of psychosis. And it's at this point where she realizes, and I know I'm rambling a bit, this is the point where her romance sours. Like, she had a lingering romance. The Princess Ball, even though they're on two separate sides, Adora will not kill Catra. Catra still messes with her because, well, she's acting like a cat, and cats like to mess with people. And she still had that love. She wasn't going to kill Adora. She was just going to follow the rules, show her she's on top, send her back to the Horde. And then, this is before the big where she leaves her to die in some big machine. And then, glow over Adora and then hopefully get Adora back when she's been taken down a peg. But once she realizes that Shadow Weaver went to Adora, not her, and was using her the entire time to fight against, to get to Adora, like all the stuff Shadow Weaver did to help her and make sure she lived, and she used a calculated move to betray Catra, that's when she realized she has to kill Adora, take it, or destroy the world. Something to take Adora down. She has to do this because her love obviously was misguided. She feels like her love was betrayed, so she has no love for anyone but herself. And the scene that cements that she has no love for others was the scene where Scorpia watches as Catra shocks Entrapta and has her taken to Beast Island to be murdered. And she asks, "Do you want to be next?" And she just goes, "No." And then you see Scorpia visibly shake and begin to weep because she loves Catra. And at this point, as she's doing this in her madness, you can tell she has no love for others anymore because she's been stabbed in the back way too many times. And then they show the clip where everything in the world is better. Everything is what it's supposed to be. Adora's still with the Horde. Catra is loyal by her side, and she says something doesn't feel right. And then it takes her and Scorpia to figure out, hey, this isn't our world. I mean, Scorpia still hates Adora, but it's not because of her loyalty to the Horde. She hates Adora because Catra will never notice her. And that's another betrayal. That's another betrayal romance. Because Scorpia realizes that Adora is Scorpia is trying to capture Adora to the point of obsession, and there will never be another woman in her life, only Adora. So she hates Adora on that level, but not to the level of Catra to murder the entire universe. So romance in and She-Ra is completely different than in Voltron Legendary Defender. There's also another cute romance where we find out that one of the side characters, Powe, has two fathers, and we find out his personality are from his two dads. One is very gloaty, the other one's very sensitive, and he has brothers and siblings and stuff, and their romance is so pure in the sense that they love each other. Like you truly see the love, and they love all of their children, and they'll do anything for their children. And it's really something because the whole episode about Bo's dads are with Bo trying to hide the fact that he's working with the rebellion because he knows that his dads never approve of it. They themselves bowed out of the rebellion once, I believe, what's that king's name? Glimmer's father passed away. At least that's what I'm thinking what happened. And because the rebellion fell apart, they don't want any part of it and staying outside the Horde's clutches. But Bo tries to hide this fact from his fathers because he doesn't want their disapproval. And their romance is so strong after what happened in their home, and it's nearly got destroyed, by the way, that they accept Bo for who they are. They just want their son not to lie to them. They want their son to be happy. And their love is so pure and nice that they accept, Glimmer. They accept everything that Bo tells them without getting completely nuts. Though if it was my mom, she would be going completely upset because I'm getting myself killed, but I digress. Their love is an example of what positive love could be. It doesn't have to just be LGBTQ plus community. They just have a positive love with each other. It doesn't have to be one sided. And that's what I wanted to get across now that I think about it, when it came to She Princess of Power. You actually get multiple forms of love, complete, satisfying love in a lot of these characters. Um, Glimmer's mother, Queen. Why can't I think of names right now? I am just losing it. Um, Princess Scorpia is shown as a lorn lost love, a one-sided love where she's completely devoted, but she is betrayed at the end because she knows that because she will never be what wow she's she'll always be secondary to Adora, which is Catra's cannot say rude words right now. Betrayed by Catra for her obsession with Adora. Um, then we got princesses. The princess Spinnerella, uh, and okay, you know what? Just give me a second. I gotta remember their names, and my brain is escaping me right now. Spinnerella and Natasa, who have a love. They love each other. They're in a relationship. We find out later on, but it's not a show offy love. They love each other. Then we got Bo's parents, who are clearly in love, and it's a romance that's been over the years marriage, where Spinnerella and Natasa are probably still dating, where we don't know yet. But and then Bo's dads are both clearly in a lovely marriage. Then you got the love. Then you got the love of Entrapta and Hordak, who is a clone. Um, he it's more of a crush more than anything else, but you can tell that they care for each other. We're not sure if it's going to be a romance or it's going to be a friendly type of romance. We're not sure yet because, well, Catra. Then we get a really sad moment with Catra and Adora, where I think it's sad because they get the lives they've always wanted. Even that's another thing. The queens, the Glimmer's mother, um, Queen. My names are bothering me right now. Queen Angela and her Queen Angela and her husband Micah, who is dead. We have a mourning type of love. Queen Queen Angela does anything she can to stop Glimmer from going into battle because she's afraid she's going to lose her just like she lost her husband. and she has a mourning type of romance. She mourns the loss of her husband, and she has to stay strong, even though she says before her death that she's a coward. She wants she wants her she wants her child to live, and she's willing to give that up, her own happiness, so that her child may live and live the best way she can. And her romance with her husband is what keeps her going. And then we finally get down to Eldora and Catra, who have a betrayed love. Each form of love in romance, which is shown in this series, is shown fleshed out. There are no real flaws, and as we watch as these characters develop and grow. And that's the point I'm trying to get across about that's what I'm trying to get across as someone who wants to be a writer. Their romance was fleshed and developed, and it's better to have a developed romance than a one-sided romance like it was in Voltron Legendary Defender. You can't you have to complete your love interests. You have to complete their characters so they can be love interests. When you don't do that, the story becomes dull and confusing, and you can't just do that. You have to make them better. You have to. You can't just put it and cast it aside and hope for the best. You have to create the characters so they can feel real romance. And that's all I have to say in this episode. That development is needed, 100% needed. And when you don't develop your characters into romances, you get lost, forlorn, confusing characters who just seem to just be there. And that's what I feel about romance. You have to make your characters develop enough to be there. Where they're not when they're not being there, then what kind of you have nothing to offer the reader. You have nothing to offer the person watching the television show. They'll tune out. They need to have development. If you're going to make a romance, they have to develop better as people in order for that romance to work. And let's say it falls out, then it falls out mutually rather than haphazardly. And that's all I have to say today. Please check out my website, which is lonewolfchat.com. I have a coffee page, which is coffee, ko-fi.com /LC Clements, where you can donate to keep the production going. I have a Twitter page if you want to make some comments or review. You can hit me up at LC Clements. And I also have a vlog, so check out my vlog series whenever you get the chance. And I will hear from you guys in the next episode.